Hi and welcome back. This is Greg from CCC again. When last we met, I was doing vocabulary videos, but now, for the next few episodes at least, I'm going to show you how to do the Writing Task 1 on the IELTS exam. There are a couple of things that apply to all the types of questions you could get, whether it's a pie chart, line graphs, bar graph, or so forth. But we're going to go through them one at a time because to some degree, some of them require some special treatment. So today we're going to look at how to answer the pie chart question. Now this is useful, as you can see, for comparing percentages, either across time, as in this case, or perhaps between countries, if you're looking at, for example, how energy is made. So we're going to look at this one about some imaginary government expenditure over 5 years. I'm going to show you how to go about getting the highest mark. The first thing you do is you have your introduction. And the introduction is the simplest part. All you do is describe what you see in very simple English. So what we have here is the two pie charts indicate government expenditure in 2 years, from 2018 to 2015. Okay, that's all you have to say. The next part is a little bit more difficult, but it's really important. And this is called your observation. So you look at the graph and what immediately strikes you as being a significant part of it. Remember, you're not here to describe everything. You're just here to say what's most important, because remember, you're doing this to give to some professor to give a lecture about it. So you want to look at the most significant features. And if you notice here, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is more than 75%. As a matter of fact, these three add up to 81% of government expenditure. That's a major chunk. Down here in 2015, we still have the same 4 big categories: education, healthcare, pensions, and national defense. However, down here, let's just get rid of that, they're down to 74%. So these fell, not by much, but they fell, except for pensions stayed the same. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to notice that the largest categories fell marginally, not very much. But you'll also notice that in the smaller categories, particularly this one, which is transport, and 2 here, which is culture and leisure, they fell a lot. Now, that's only 3%, that's not much. But from 3% down to 1%, that's a drop of 2/3. In the case of culture and leisure, from 2% to 1%, that's a 50% drop. So on the one hand, you could notice that the largest categories fell, but 7% in 5 years. However, for the smaller categories, they fell considerably, and that's a significant part. Now, 2 of these, they rose. But we're going to get to that later. So your opening sentence after the introduction is going to be something like this. Of the 9 categories of government expenditure, 7 fell and 2 rose. But what's interesting is that the largest categories fell the least, while the smaller categories fell the most. And then you go into your next paragraph. Now this can probably be combined in one paragraph, or you can do a separate paragraph. The next one is the first body paragraph. And this will be how you describe these. And you would do something like this. In both time periods, education, healthcare, pensions, and defense constituted the lion's share of government expenditures. 24% was the highest in 2010, and it was still the highest for education in 2015. So education remained the chief source of government expenditure. Pensions stayed neutral at 19%. There was no change. The largest drop is in defense, from 17 to 41%, 17% to 14%. So that's 3% drop. So the first paragraph will discuss these 4 categories. The next paragraph will look at these 2. However, the greatest drop, as we said, was in the smaller categories. So from here and here, you're going to say the greatest budgetary loss was felt by transportation, which fell by 2/3. Similarly, culture fell by 50%. Now that would go with this. You can make that a second paragraph, or you could include it in paragraph 1. The next paragraph is also quite important. However, 2 categories did increase in government expenditures, and this was interest on borrowing and welfare. Interest on borrowing increased from 5% to 10% for a 100% increase. Meanwhile, welfare increased just over 50% to 13%. And that's all the data you really have here that you need. So your conclusion will be something like this. And you don't have to write a conclusion for these, but it helps to do so. Because if you can make an inference, if you can find some bit of information that you can pull out of here to give meaning to the pie charts, that will really enhance the possibility of getting a very high mark. And here you can do that. So what we have here is that because of the increases, you can begin your last paragraph with something like, overall, government expenditure fell by 7%, and this was used to pay for increases in the carrying charges for borrowing money and in welfare. This indicates that the government underwent economic difficulty, possibly entered a recession, where spending on public services had to decline to increase spending on welfare and interest on borrowing. So that's how you would end it. You would end up with the observation that the government in question ended up in economic recession. Now that's an inference. It's not a fact, but it's probably true, because why else would you cut expenditures like this? Anyway, just to summarize, first thing you do is the introduction. You just describe in simple English what the pie charts indicate. The second one is your observation, and the observation here was 7 out of 9 categories declined. The largest categories declined marginally, and the smaller categories declined considerably. Then you go into the next paragraph where you talk about the specifics of each, and the third paragraph talks about the 2 categories that increased, and the conclusion explains why this was the case. And you can explain that all of this had to be cut to pay for increased borrowing costs and welfare payments, and that implies economic hardships. Anyway, thank you very much, and next time we meet, we will look at line graphs and the particular vocabulary that goes along with it. See you later.